Hey guys, I'm Evan and this is Magnolias and Sunlight. Welcome to day 4 of DIY or Die, where we are challenged to make a Halloween spooky DIY project every day in the month of October. Today we are going to make some tarot card inspired throw pillows. This is my sample that I made. I love making throw pillows for the holidays because all we're making is the cover, and then you can just easily, these are velcroed, and then you can easily replace them. So all you're storing between the seasons is the pillow cover. It makes it so much easier to store where you're not storing an entire pillow. And then you can reuse the insert over and over and over for each season and just have a cute set of pillow covers ready to go for each and every holiday in this exact size. So not only is it sustainable, we're not buying, 10 pillows for every holiday. We're just making some pillow covers. So these ones are actually made out of tapestries that I found on Amazon. I have to admit, I bought these back in 2020 because I had this idea in 2020. I know this because I went and looked when I bought them on my Amazon order form. And then I just never actually made them. So I feel like all crafters can kind of relate to that. You get an idea, you get the supplies, and then you run out of time. So they have been sitting waiting for you guys, basically. So now I have a reason to make them with you all. But unfortunately, these are now sold out or no longer available, these exact ones. I have linked a variety of other ones below. And because I have stress test this project, I have actually decided that it would be easier to make it using something like a printed tea towel or a kitchen towel. The tapestries have eyelets at the top, which you'll see we have to cut them off, and then it makes for some weird sizing. So if you want to skip that step, find some tarot card tea towels, and then you can basically replicate this, and I will do my best to find some and link them below for you. But let's dive in. This is a really fun, quick sewing project. I will be using a sewing machine, but as I've mentioned in my previous videos, I never want to make a project that you guys can't make because of equipment. So I have a very, I will show you my sad sewing machine throughout this project. But a very affordable sewing machine will knock this out no problem, and you could also just easily do this by hand sewing a needle and thread. It will take you a little bit longer, and we are sewing some Velcro, so I would recommend a thimble to save your fingers to push through the Velcro. But other than that, 100% super doable. So let's dive in with our supplies list. Alright guys, so let's dive into what we need to make these pillows. Of course, you're gonna need your tapestry fabric or your napkin or whatever you choose. These do have kind of a weird dimension, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But normally throw pillows come in like standard dimensions. These do not fit that, but I will show you the workaround for that in a little while. So your fabric, your front, you can also, I wanted to mention, order printed fabrics. So you can do something like this, buy a stock image or find a free stock image and then have it printed on canvas, and then you could use that for your pillows if you want something else that's extra custom that isn't pre-printed. You'll also need a back fabric. So this is just from my scrap fabric pile. It is a black canvas. I think the contrast looks really good. However, I do have 2 light colored dogs that shed a lot. So black fabric on the backs of my pillows, not the best option, not the most useful option for me. I'm gonna be lint rolling it all the time, but that's, life with dogs. To finish off the pillows, we are going to be using some Velcro, or as this is called, hook and loop fastener, because it's not brand name Velcro. You want the sew-on kind. They do sell like a stick-on kind where there's an adhesive on the backs of each side. I find that when you're opening and closing pillows and like restuffing them each season, it really doesn't, that adhesive doesn't hold up to that kind of force. So I recommend just sewing it on. It's a little extra work, but your pillows will last a lot longer, or you're gonna end up having to sew the adhesive on later anyways. An additional extra fun thing, I have some trim that I have trimmed all of the pillows with, or will trim all the pillows with. I have 3 different prints. So I have the earth, the moon, and the sun, I believe. So I went with some celestial kind of trims. This one is a little bit longer and dangly. We have just your standard thick fringe. This is more like a curtain fringe, but it looks good on pillows. And this is a silver with a gold thread through it. And then we have like the really small gold stars and moons, which is the one that I used on our practice pillow, I guess. This one, I ordered all of these actually off of Amazon. If you guys have a good trim source, I get a lot of vintage trims off of Etsy and eBay and things, but like local stores, where do you buy trim now that Joann's has closed? Because I don't like having to keep ordering from these big online box stores if I can help it. I did find that this one only went around one pillow, and my dimensions, obviously your dimensions might be different, and you could achieve multiple pillows out of 3 yards, but I believe this one and this one came in 3-yard lengths. The gold came in a longer length, and I think it was actually even cheaper. Obviously it's a much smaller, and when you're feeling it you can realize why it was cheaper, but I think I could probably accomplish all 3 pillows with this one package. So just measure the distance around your pillow, add it up to find out how much trim you need. You don't want to run out of trim mid-sewing project. And then you will need a pillow insert. Hopefully you already have one that you can use. If not, I have the ones that I bought linked down below. And last but not least, all of our sewing supplies. You'll need your fabric scissors, you'll need some black thread or whatever thread is on the, like to match the back basically. You're gonna top stitch your Velcro on, and so that thread will be visible. I did white thread to match the front on my practice pillow and found that you could obviously see it, so I have switched to black thread. And then little clips. I use these instead of my sewing pins. I've actually kind of done a combo on this project, but these little clips are incredible and a new find for me, and I really, really love them. They're kind of like woodworking clamps, which I use all the time, but you just clip the fabric together and then as you're sewing, pull them off and put them back in this little tub. They're great. I hate pinning. I find it to be very annoying, but necessary with sewing projects. And then you'll also need an iron to make sure that all of your fabric is flat and even, and of course a sewing machine. If you choose to not use a sewing machine, which is totally an option, you can hand sew these. I recommend adding in a thimble because when you're sewing through, where did it even go, your Velcro, that's going to be murder on your little fingers. So use a thimble. It will make this project much, much more tolerable. And let's just dive in and make some pillows. We are going to be working with just the top piece for now. Basically, I need to cut these grommets off, and the only way I found to do that was to also lose the Roman numerals up here, which I'm okay with, but having these show up on the front of the pillow is just not going to look very good. So, also this is why we have to iron, which I wish that weren't the case. But I am going to just take my ruler and get as close to these grommet lines as possible. We don't want to lose as much you don't want to lose that much fabric. I've also noticed that these are not, like you can tell, you're not even on this. There, you can tell here that this is not square. So, you know, get as close as you can. You could also just cut a straight line because this is going to be inside of the pillow. And then we're going to take our fabric scissors and just cut along that line. So then we can set this aside. We don't need it. I might save it and try and do something else with that later. But while we're cutting, we might as well just pull out our backing fabric and get those cut as well. So we're going to take that piece off, lay down our backing fabric. You can see, like I meant, the dogs. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to iron this after I cut it. Technically, I should probably do that in reverse. but I want to be able to iron everything in one go. So we're going to lay this out, and it's actually a pretty good fit. I need to cut 2 of these because I need to make 2 more pillows. So that side's this is the selvage side up here. So I'm gonna line up on the selvage side, and then this scrap down here I could just use later for something else. And then we're just gonna cut along the outside. This doesn't have to be perfect because this will be inside of the pillow. So if your edges are a little crooked, it's not gonna show. You don't want a ton of excess though, because then that's just more to work with and deal with later. So now we have our front and our back. So now that we have a nice ironed surface to work with, this stuff has like a weird plasticky backing that I don't love, but you can, like, it keeps the crease pretty hard, but on the front, we're pretty ironed. So I'm gonna be okay with that. Now we need to add our trim. So if you're skipping this step, you can move on to the next part where we put the backing on the front. But for right now, to add the trim, we are only working with the front piece, and you're basically going to do everything in reverse from what your brain says. So the trim normally goes on the top of the pillow, so you're gonna sew it on the inside of the pillow, and then when we flip it all back right side out, it goes on the outside. Go ahead and start pinning this. I'm gonna pin down here so that I can show you how I'm doing it, and then I will turn you guys off and finish the rest, because this is a long process and I might need to go get another set of pins. So I want to try and go as straight as I can, but we also, this is going to be our sewing line. We don't want to see this when we're finished. We want our hem or our sewn line to be there. And then this is going to be inside of our seam. That was the word I was looking for this whole time. Inside of our seam. On my practice pillow, I went right up closer to the edge, and I really want there to be some of the cream. On that first round, it has basically no margins, but I kind of want the contrast between, like, the frame. We're just not gonna have it so much around the top because we had to cut that off, and then we don't want the numbers to show that are, like, obviously cut off. But I think it's still gonna look okay. Now that we are closing in on this top corner, go ahead and pin that. So I find it helpful to take a pin and pin where you want it to be, where you want your corner to go, and then you're gonna fold it, making sure all of the pieces are inside. You don't want anything to get caught up in your seam, and then flatten that out. And I like to go both directions to hold that corner. So you're kind of making a cross, and you'll pull these pins out as you sew, but that way you're getting your flat 90-degree angle. It's like a mitered edge, but like in reverse almost. I find it hard to make without having the pins in place. So that just is my little quick tip. It makes it go faster. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish all the way around, and then I will come back to you guys for the back. Okay, so the next step, now that we have this pinned down, is we are just going to tack it on with a long basting stitch. That just makes it easier when we attach this piece to our backing panel, that the trim is already in place. Technically, we could lay this down and then sew along. It's just harder, especially with how thin this trim is, to ensure that we're getting this stuck down. So what we're gonna do is sew all 4 sides with the basting stitch. making sure that all of the trim is like still on the inside. Basically, we're putting our presser foot down and we're just doing a very long straight stitch all the way around. Okay, so we have our fringe sewed on, like I said, a very light basting stitch, but it's in place. And now we're gonna make sure, again, continue to check that all of your trim is nice and pushed into your design, because we don't want it to get stuck in our seam. So now we're gonna take our back piece of fabric, and if you're using a pattern, make sure the pattern is facing into this pattern. It's called Right Sides Together. I like these because I can mark where my trim is. So when I'm clipping them, I just make sure that I know that's where the trim bit is, and I'm gonna sew right on the inside of that clip, and that will help keep not only a straight line, but keep our trim band sandwiched in between. So we're just gonna go all the way around the top 3 sides. We are going to leave the bottom side open because that's where we're going to install our Velcro. So I find it helpful to not even bother clipping this, because then I know to follow the clips, and you really want to leave wherever your trim is going to flip, only sew to about there, because we're gonna kind of create a little hem inside that makes a finished bottom when we sew on the Velcro. So if it helps, you can also put a clip that says like, this is where I'm sewing to here, and then I'm gonna leave the rest open because we're gonna need that for the Velcro and the flipping hem. Okay, so we have our piece and it's sewn along the 2 long sides and along the top. And so now what we need to deal with is our bottom. So we obviously want to tuck all of that fringe back in. And this is the part where we're going to make it like open and close using a piece of Velcro. So I'm going to take my Velcro apart, and then I'm going to flip up. Like I said, you want to leave some of the seams open. And on this side, I didn't do the best job of that. So I am actually going to snip this a little bit. Oh, I just like totally rocked you guys. So I'm going to snip this open just a touch. There we go. And then I will go back and tack that after I'm done to make sure that that's in place. But now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch our Velcro again right along, using the band of the trim as our guide, because this piece we don't want to show. So if the Velcro is right here, it will basically be like that, the other side of the fabric. So I find that my clips aren't, well, they might be long enough for this now on this piece. So we're going to go ahead and clip our Velcro in place. And luckily all of these stitches will be on the inside of the pillow, kind of on this little flap that we're creating. We are just sewing the top piece of fabric and the Velcro, and then it will flip up and we can tack the corner with a hand stitch. But for now, we don't want to sew it down like this because we have all this fringe in the way. So slide your Velcro in, put down your presser foot, and start your straight stitch all the way down. You can also use a zigzag. All right, so we have our Velcro sewn onto the front piece. Again, we're gonna make sure all of our, actually get rid of that pin so I don't lose it later. This is all sewn down. We're gonna make sure all of our fringe is on the inside, and then we're gonna flip it the way that it's gonna be, because it goes inside the pillow. And then we're gonna match our black side so that we have, and we can actually trim that as well, because that will be inside the pillow. And it's just getting in the way. So we can match. There we go. It's being a little difficult. You can also, you know, iron it, but who's got time for that? So match your hem. Pin just the black fabric down on this side. And this is not an even cut for me, so this side is a little bit shorter than this side. That's okay. It's all going to be hidden. And then we have our soft side. The other side we did was the Velcro-y, I don't know, the spiky side. And we're going to do the same thing where we just clip our Velcro onto this piece of fabric, and we're going to sew right along here. You can also sew this, because this is the back, you could sew through the whole thing. You're going to end up tacking this piece down flat because you'll have like a hem or a seam right here. But my sewing machine has been struggling with this project, and I am not getting the prettiest top stitches that I would like to have. So I'm going to go ahead and do this just like we did the other one, where it's a hidden stitch, because I don't want it to be visible. Hopefully that last seam that I did where I turned on the camera, my machine decided to behave, and it was probably showing off for you guys. But for the most part, it has not wanted to act like that for me. Not even a little bit. So again, right down along the bottom line of the Velcro, and then we will turn this inside out and put our pillow in it. All right, guys, so we have our pillowcase, and I wanted to talk about our inserts. So these are what I found toddler pillows. Because we're using a how do I put this? Because we're using materials that already exist in a specific size, it doesn't mean that we can 100% adhere to the dimensions of normal throw pillows, which are, I can put a list here of what like standard throw pillows are. So if you want to do this, you might have to get creative. And I found these toddler pillows. This one is 13 by 18, but they also come in 12 by 20 and 14 by 19, which are super strange dimensions, but I measured my first practice pillow, and that was basically exactly what size this needed to be. Another cool trick a lot of stagers use, or like store decorators, it's great to get a pillow that is 1 inch bigger on both sides, and it gives you a more like full looking pillow. So if you're looking for something that is like a 12 by 12 pillow, if you buy a 14 by 14, which is 2 inches bigger, usually you'll get that really chunky pillow look where you can do like the karate chop thing, and it's not gonna look super empty. Additionally, if you have batting or an extra small throw blanket or something, you can wrap your pillow in that and then stuff your pillow, and it'll give it a little bit more like oomph, because sometimes throw pillows can have a tendency to look a little flat, and we want our pillows to look, you know, a little chunky. So we have stuffed our pillow in there. This is now our closed end, and that's why I like to do the Velcro like this, because it just makes it nice and seamless. And then again, this is a great size for like a small chair turned horizontally. I'm going to start keeping my eye out for some vintage like Christmas tea towels or other little fabrics that I can replace the Halloween pillow covers with something Christmassy. But this is our finished Earth tarot card. I love the tassel dangle. It is so pretty. I'll do some cutaways of them staged, but let me grab the other ones. So I want to hear in the comments which one you like the best. We have the moon with the gold trim. Honestly, the moon skull, a little creepy, but the gold trim, so cute and dainty. We have the one that we did together. This is the earth. Again, we've got kind of a skull. This one looks more like the surface of the moon, or like the surface of a planet rather than Earth. Honestly, it has asteroids in it. So this is 100% the moon that they just decided was Earth. But you know what? We're just gonna like let it be. It's really cute, and we don't have to think about it too strongly. Also, I want to show you, that's what I meant about having some edge. This one has none, and I think having that little framework around makes it look a lot more polished. And then last but not least, we have the star, which I thought was the sun, but apparently, I mean, same thing, right? The sun is a star technically. And I love this fringe. I just think this one is so much fun. I like having the 3 options, all the different trims. I like having, you know, a little variety on the couch. I hope you have enjoyed the first 4 days of DIY or die. These projects have been so fun to make for you guys, and I'm just really proud of what I am forcing myself to do creatively. So I hope you guys stick around. Tomorrow is day 5. We are closing in on our first full week of projects, and I again cannot be happier. I really want to see what you guys do with these pillows. If you guys make more tarot card pillows, or if you find really cool Halloween tea towels or vintage fabrics, I would love to see what you make. And with that, I hope you guys have a lovely day. Follow along on Instagram for the short content. Follow along here for the full tutorials. And I will see you guys tomorrow for day 5. Bye. Hi, Moose. You want to... Here, come here. You want to be in the video? Moose, come here. Come here. Hi. Hi. Say hello. Look over there. Look over there. Say hi. Can you say come back for day 5? Oh, now Bailey's involved. Now Bailey's involved. Hi. Hi, hi, hi. Okay. Bye, guys.